The hero's journey is being listened to by you. I'm Dan Zarzana.
Jeff Garvin is being spoken to you.
Let the journey begin. This episode of The Hero's Journey is made possible by generous support from listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/heroesjourney to make a single donation, or become a monthly sponsor and earn access to bonus audio and video content, and vote for the subject of our next episode.
Thank you to all our patrons, especially our two demigod-level patrons, Dean Ethington and John Peterson Jr. And welcome to our brand new patron, Adam Baxter.
Hey, Adam.
Welcome to the family.
And welcome to this month's episode, Say Anything.
And I'll be saying a lot of things in this croaky voice because I have a terrible cold and I just want to get that out of the way at the beginning. Hopefully this will not be a chorus of sniffles and throat clearing. Say Anything appeared in theaters on April 14, 1989, which seemed weird to me.
30 years ago.
30, yeah, man.
Why did that seem weird to you? Sorry, I cut you off.
It seemed weird to me that this sort of summer after high school romantic comedy would be released in April. So then I looked at the other movies that came out that summer, and I realized why they released this in April. Because that summer, the films that came out included Dead Poets Society, Tim Burton's Batman, When Harry Met Sally, Weekend at Bernie's, License to Kill, Ghostbusters 2, Karate Kid 3, Star Trek 5, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Wow.
And that's just June and July. So that
really
was a crowded field.
That was. How many of those did you see in the theater? Do you remember?
I'm sure I saw Batman.
Oh, for sure. I saw
License
that opening
to Kill,
night.
Ghostbusters 2, Karate Kid. I mean, I probably saw most of those in the theater.
I think When Harry Met Sally, I probably didn't see. I know I saw Weekend at Bernie's. I've never been a big James Bond fan, so I didn't see License to Kill.
What? Oh, that's it. James Bond's our next episode.
Yeah, is your dad gonna come break my kneecaps now?
Probably.
It's like his favorite thing ever.
I mean, probably. He's probably on his way right now. He's got the
he
live.
sensed the disturbance in the force.
He's got
he's
the live
boarding
feed.
a plane. Oh boy! Wow. Okay, so let's return to the task at hand. Did you know that one of the producers of Say Anything is a gentleman named James L. Brooks, who is the showrunner of a little cartoon show nobody's ever heard of called The Simpsons?
Yes, I
Did you know that?
did see that. That surprised me.
Yeah.
I watched Reality Bites last night. Danny DeVito produced that movie.
Say Anything was written and directed by Cameron Crowe. This was his directorial debut. At the time, he was relatively unknown except for his writing credit on Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Right.
Which was also based on a novel that he wrote. I didn't know that.
What?
Yeah.
That Cameron Crowe wrote?
Yeah.
Must read.
Yeah. Crowe went on to write and direct such hits as Singles, Jerry Maguire, and Almost Famous.
Which was the movie I wanted to do when I put it out there to, quote, vote on your favorite Cameron Crowe movie.
You didn't campaign well enough then.
It's my fault. I believe in democracy.
You still believe in democracy?
Unfortunately. Say Anything was nominated for 0 Oscars and 0 Golden Globes, and it only earned $21 million worldwide against its $16 million budget. That surprised and personally hurt me.
Yeah.
As a guy who likes to write stories about, people talking, it made me sad. And I love Cameron Crowe, and I love his films, and I love films like the films he makes. The good news is I'm not alone, because Say Anything is an undisputed classic, and it enjoys a 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. I remember the VHS had a semi-permanent home in my VCR during college.
I bought this on Amazon Prime and then discovered that I owned the DVD. It's like,
oh, no.
Yeah.
As you said, it made $21 million, so not a huge box office smash.
Yeah.
But that boombox scene is embedded in our cultural collective consciousness.
Totally.
Permanently.
Yeah. And it was the number 3 movie in America for the first 2 weeks. And that's no small feat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an accomplishment.
For a film like this, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jeffrey, enough foreplay. Take this pen. Grab your box of Bavarian Dutch-style pretzels, hoist your boom box, and let's hit play on Say Anything.
Act 1 begins with the ordinary world, or the world of common day. We see our main character in his status quo, normal life. James Court is the hardworking, self-sacrificing owner of a nursing home in suburban Seattle. He lives with his brilliant, but ultimately unfaithful daughter and wastes his life wiping the mouths of ungrateful senior citizens until one day, a phone call changes his life, but I'm probably like bleeding into your call, so. You didn't interrupt me at all. That was incredible.
I wanted to see how far you were going to go with that. That was amazing. His ungrateful daughter.
Unfaithful. I will say this movie is not very Hollywood, and one of the reasons why is we spend a lot of time on that father-daughter relationship that isn't the core romantic thrust of the film. And I love that about this movie. Okay, Lloyd Dobler is a 19-year-old high school senior about to graduate. He lives with his older sister, played by his real-life older sister and his fake movie nephew, and he's got no plans for the future except pursuing his crush on the ever-smiling class valedictorian, Diane Court. And Diane is the gorgeous valedictorian who lives with her divorced father, and he dotes on her and has big plans for her future.
Yeah.
That's what I saw as The Ordinary World.
Yeah, agreed. How funny. I wrote also dotes on her, those literal words.
Wow. We are of a generation, you and I, Dan. A doting generation.
Oh, boy.
We used to dote.
The Call to Adventure, where the hero is presented with a challenge that renders them unable to continue living in the comfort of the ordinary world. I think Lloyd presents the challenge to himself in this film in his very first line of dialogue when he says,
I'm going to take out Diane Court again.
Totally.
That's his leap to action.
Yeah.
I think Diane has a hero's journey here too.
Absolutely.
In fact, because there is so much time devoted to Diane, I think Cameron Crowe considers the two equal characters.
I don't know that I'd go that far, but I agree with you that she definitely has a hero's journey, and she's definitely fleshed out as a three-dimensional character. She is not the damsel in distress or the princess object of lust. Yeah. And it's funny, Cameron Crowe has been accused of writing unrealistic female characters. His 2005 movie, Elizabethtown, is largely agreed upon to be the origin of the manic dream pixie archetype, the girl who's crazy and fun and lovable and just exists to be a foil to the male character. So I think this movie is pretty stone cold proof that he's capable of writing three-dimensional great female characters.
Yeah.
I think Diane gets two calls to adventure, the date with Lloyd and the fellowship.
You're taking over the segment?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I've got, so you're right. Which brings us to...
refusal of the call. Confronted with fear of the unknown, our hero refuses to engage in the adventure, and sometimes this energy comes from within the hero and sometimes from without. The refusal here comes from without. In that very first scene in the film, his best friends, DC and Corey, the inimitable Lily Taylor, who I love in everything she's ever been in, and particularly in this movie, they tell Lloyd that girls like Diane Court, who are beautiful and smart, do not go out with guys like Lloyd. And then when Lloyd actually asks Diane out, she does resist on the phone.
Right.
But he gets through it quickly with his wit and charm.
Yes. I loved when she finally agrees to go, and he doesn't really believe that.
Yeah.
So he asks her one last time, are you sure?
Yeah.
And the look on her face is just of regret almost when she says, I'll go. At first she's into it. I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go.
And then he sells past the clothes and she's like, oh, did I make a mistake?
Do we know anybody like that?
It was a culture shock to watch teenagers in 1989. If for no other reason than you remember having a phone, a Bakelite style phone, where the handset sits on the cradle and there's physical buttons you got to push.
Right.
And you always had one with the giant long cord. Right. And so you had to hold the phone in one hand and the handset in the other and cradle it, and you played with the cord. It was such a physical, visceral experience.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, when like he goes to grab the phone and his sister beats him to the bathroom. And
right.
So now he's got to deal with his nephew, and all those scenes are so great.
Yeah. Some additional refusals of the call. The fellowship, when Jim Court informs Diane that she won.
Yeah.
There's this great dialogue and physical reaction where he says, I want you to stand up tall, and she slumps to the floor because she says, oh God, I'm gonna have to get on a plane. And
right.
Diane is terrified of flying. So a bit of a refusal there too from her. Like she's maybe doesn't even want the Reed Fellowship because she's gonna have to get on a plane. mentor. Joseph Campbell calls this the supernatural aid, the unexpected assistance that comes to one who has undertaken his proper adventure. I had a rough time with this one. I feel like Lloyd has some mentor moments himself as the mentor. If I'm thinking of mentors for Lloyd, partially his sister, and I'm not real confident with this, even as I'm saying it. When his nephew Jay comes in and he's got a sore throat, and he's playing with him to kind of get him energized again.
Yeah.
And Connie says, "Why can't you be his uncle and not his playmate?"
Yeah.
Which is kind of a "it's time to grow up" statement.
Oh, interesting.
And that is echoed by other adults throughout the film. The people at the court dinner party asking him, "What are you going to do for a career?" Miss Evans, played by Bebe Neuwirth.
In her film debut.
Yeah.
Wow.
Asking Lloyd what his plans for the future are.
Yeah.
He's trying to hold on to these last vestiges of life without responsibility, and all I want to do is date Diane until she leaves.
Yeah.
And everyone's pushing him to, you need to make a choice about what you're going to do with the rest of your life. So maybe that. I saw a moment of mentorship from Jim Court toward his daughter. I mean, he's the doting dad. Everything he does is for her. And when he tells her about the Reed Fellowship, he builds her up and talks about how life starts as a pyramid and it narrows down until, there's just one person who's so special they're celebrated on 2 continents. The way he talks to her is very much the guiding father as I saw it.
Yeah.
Did you see anything else that I missed? Because that was kind of it that I saw as mentor moments.
You covered most of them. The only one I saw that you didn't mention was Corey and DC mentoring Lloyd about how to be a good boyfriend/date. In particular, toward the end of the movie, when they figure out that Lloyd has slept with her, Court says, you got to do something. You got to show respect. And he writes the letter, and she reads the letter and approves of it. But I also think
he had already written the letter, though. Well, he didn't need her guidance there because he had already done it. Yeah,
but remember, she says to him, there are a million guys out there. Don't be a guy, be a man. When they have broken up, before she gets back together, they get back together,
all right,
she's telling him, be a man. Don't wait and make sure she calls. You call.
Yes.
Anyway, a little bit of that.
I will absolutely agree with you on that one. Ooh. Yes, I did miss that.
And you mentioned the Miss Evans scene just as a plot/great writing note. That's the first time we learn that Lloyd's dad is a lieutenant colonel in the Army. We know that they're in Germany. The parents are in Germany because he mentions that earlier. But this is where we learn, dad's in the Army. So Lloyd is clearly rebelling against that structured future that his dad wants for him.
Yep.
We really get a lot of independent free thinker from Lloyd, but we don't really see that rebellious energy because we never see him interact with his father. And I wondered if there were scenes with his father, would they have, he would have been refusing that call. But we never get to see that. And I love it that Cameron Crowe shades his characters with these depths and then doesn't dwell on them. He just lets them be there. There it is for the actor to explore or not explore.
Yeah, good.
Crossing the threshold. The hero must pass a barrier to enter the special world. This crossing represents the hero's commitment to taking on the adventure. I see the special world as the romance between Diane Court and Lloyd. But I think it's really Diane who has to cross into a special world because Lloyd, the world of Lloyd Dobler and his ethos is kind of the special world. She's on a track of, academic excellence, and he kind of draws her out, live life, smell the roses.
Yeah.
So I think the party is kind of the threshold crossing here, that great party sequence where you really get a sense of what their high school life was like and how different the two of them were.
Right. She is completely overdressed. She looks like she's going to prom or something.
Yeah, she looks like a doily.
Doily?
It's a Reality Bites reference.
Oh, okay. Wow, you did watch that last night.
Yeah, she's dressed all in white, almost like a bride.
Very pure.
Yeah.
And innocent.
And he's like in a trench coat.
I heard from Cameron Crowe that the trench coat was John Cusack's addition to his costume.
That's great. So the morning after the party, Lloyd walks Diane home from the 7-Eleven and asks if he can see her again. And she says,
"You call me tomorrow."
Today's tomorrow.
And I've always loved that line, today is tomorrow.
Right.
Because it works on a literal sense. I mean, you remember being a teenager and staying up all night, and then it's 2 a.m. and you're talking about tomorrow. I just love that. And then she says, call me later. And boom, They are across the threshold. They are in their romantic adventure.
Yep.
One quick note. There's a great scene after he, drops her off at home where she says to her dad, "Oh man, I ruined it. I called him basic."
Yes.
And John Mahoney says, "I don't think he's,
reeling in embarrassment."
Yeah, and she shows him and he's doing a 4-point bow in the middle of the
Sugar
street.
Ray Leonard bow, yeah.
That reminded me of Laura Linney's freak out in Love Actually after she gets the guy home and they close the door and she says, "I just need a minute." And she walks around the corner into another room and we see her and the guy she's dating in the frame, but he can't see her, and she does this like silent freak out dance, and it's just a great moment. If someone's celebrating by themselves, how are people when they're alone and no one can see them?
Except he's standing in the middle of the street.
Right. By the way, that was my subtle bid to have Love Actually be our Christmas pick for this
Christmas
year.
movie?
Just putting it out there early.
All right. Well,
lots of characters. That would be a
that would
rich,
be a nightmare.
Yeah, it'd be a rich journey. We could each pick a handful of characters and weave in.
Two-parter.
We could, yeah, there you go. The Love and the Actually.
All right. That concludes Act 1, I
That's
believe.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Let's replenish our waters and our coffees, and you take another dose of cold medication.
Zyrtec D, my savior.
We'll be right back. Hey, Jeff, let's take a moment to wish happy birthday to John Cusack, born 2 days ago.
Wow.
And 50-something years.
Wow.
Yeah, his birthday was 2 days ago, as of our recording date.
Happy birthday, John
Happy birthday, John Cusack. You always get to have the Jeff Garvin actor moment. I am going to take it this time.
I love it. We need a theme song.
Did you know, Jeff, that in around 2001 or 2, I think it was, I got to direct John Cusack?
What?
Yeah. He came into the bookstore I was working at and wanted to know where the bathroom was, so I directed him to the bathroom.
Which bookstore?
It doesn't matter.
That's amazing.
I'm not going to out him by telling everybody which bookstore he went to.
How did you when he spoke to you? Did you quake and tremble? Were you excited?
A little bit. I was on the phone with my current wife, then girlfriend, at the front counter, and he came up and he was just like, "Where's the bathroom?" He like kind of mouthed it at me because he saw I was on the phone. And I was like, "Michelle, I gotta go," and I just hung up on her. And I remember being really mortified that he was going to use the bathroom in this bookstore. It was really difficult to keep that bathroom clean. And it was a Saturday night, which was ground zero. And I'm thinking, my God, like one of my favorite actors is about to walk into this bathroom in the store I'm working at and just be horrified by how gross it probably is.
Do you think...
And I didn't want him to go.
Do you think he blames you to this day?
I'm sure he's thinking about it right now, anyway. So it's been several weeks since we recorded. We recorded 7 way back at the beginning of May.
Yeah.
And it is now the last weekend of June. So it's been almost 2 full months. So no excuses if you don't have anything good for what you read and watching and playing. Tell the audience. Go.
I recently watched a video that our friend Dean Ethington sent me.
You mean demigod level patron Dean Ethington?
The very same. In this video, the guy lays out how many books he has left to read in his whole life. Like if he reads at a certain pace, he has X amount of books to read his whole life based on how long he's expected to live.
Did Dean make this video?
No.
Oh, I thought this was something he made.
No, he sent me this video. I'll link to it in the show notes.
All right.
But I did the math and I have 900 books left in my life
to read,
unless I drastically change my reading pace, which I don't expect to do. So I have been on a tear of DNFing books. I'm just like 50 pages. I don't like it. I'm out. DNF meaning did not finish, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
I read Macbeth by Shakespeare, which I'd never read.
You said that was one of your bucket list items a few episodes ago.
Really enjoyed it. It was interesting to read it as an adult instead of as a teenaged actor, looking for where I could fit into the play as a part.
Jeff Garvin, actor moment.
Yeah, it was funny to see some of the motifs and patterns that Shakespeare used in his tragedies. That supernatural element, the witches in Macbeth and the ghost of Hamlet's father in Hamlet, and then opening the show with soldiers or secondary cast members who aren't the main character. Anyway, really enjoyed it. So I DNF'd 2 books. I DNF'd
Quitter.
Waterdeep, City of Splendors by Ed Greenwood.
Really?
I'm dungeon master for a campaign that takes place in the fictional world of the Forgotten Realms in the city of Waterdeep. So I thought I'd read this book to get a sense of the city and the different parts. And it was just...
And this is a novel, right? It's not like a source material book?
Right. It was a novel in a series of books about the cities of the Sword Coast.
Yes.
And 50 pages in, I wasn't connecting with any of the characters. The world building was kind of interesting, but I was out. And it's a big, thick book, and I couldn't imagine spending the next 3-4 weeks reading it. So I returned it to the library. I also DNF'd Catch-22 by Joseph Heller.
You son of a...
I was disappointed in myself, but
I'm disappointed.
I got 5 hours into a 20-hour audiobook, and it's
a long time.
It's narrated by J.O. Sanders, who's awesome, but I just found that it was the same joke over and over and over and over again, and I was out. But I'm glad I got to experience it, but I'm like, nope, this isn't one of my 900. It's just not.
At least you tried it.
I'm not quite finished with this book yet, but I will finish it before next recording. It's called Zodiac. It is a YA sci-fi thriller by Romina Russell. And the reason I chose this book is because I have been empaneled with Romina on several occasions where I'm sitting next to her at a book signing, and there's 3 or 4 teenagers in line to get my book signed, and she has a line out the door and around the corner. And then I've been on panels with her, and she's the most articulate person I've ever been on a panel with. People ask her questions, and she answers them in a way that just makes you like want to hug her, and you walk away inspired. And so I'm like, all right, I got to read this book. And her world building is so complex. Zodiac takes place in a world where each of the constellations of the Zodiac form a star system that the people who live there are raised in the culture of the qualities of that Zodiac symbol. So there's 12 different worlds. The main character, Ro, travels seamlessly through them. She's kind of the chosen one. She can read the stars in a way that no one else can, and she sees a bad omen and so it's kind of like chosen heroine saves the universe kind of a story. It's complex. I mean, the world building, the only thing I can compare it to is Dune. The way the different cultures are so complex. So check out Zodiac by Romina Russell.
Wow.
But not Waterdeep by Ed Greenwood. And scene.
Okay.
How about you?
There's a gaping hole. Gaping, Jeffrey. I'm really concerned. You have not mentioned Bosch Season 5.
I haven't watched... I don't even know who in front of a television
are anymore.
I know. I'm so disappointed. This June has been a whirlwind month, and I've been proofreading. It's insane. I really want to watch more Bosch, but I have not had. I haven't sat in front of the TV except to watch Say Anything.
That's Reality Bites.
Probably the only thing. Oh, yes.
You could have not watched Reality Bites, and you could have watched 2 episodes.
I had to fold
Bosch,
like 4 loads of laundry, and when I watch Bosch, I want to watch it.
Yeah.
So I needed to watch something that I didn't really have to pay. I'd seen before.
Yeah.
That's why I chose Reality Bites.
All right, so why don't we exchange our deal or
Hold on,
ordeal
you
cards?
haven't talked about what you've read, watched, or played. It's been 4 years since we recorded our last episode, so I can't wait to hear the list of Dostoevsky and Tolstoy novels.
I did make a big effort to watch as many movies as I could. I just watched a bunch of stuff. I watched the entire 5th season of Bosch. I watched that 2017 Singularity movie.
I want to throw
with
things
John
at you
Cusack
for being,
that I was talking
you've
about
seen
earlier.
all the Bosch, and I haven't.
watched a Netflix movie called Io: Last on Earth, which is about a woman living on Earth after most of the rest of humanity has abandoned it for Io, the moon of Jupiter. I watched a Netflix series with Ricky Gervais called Afterlife. He plays a man who is trying to carry on after his wife dies of cancer. I watched the first 2 seasons of The Expanse on Amazon Prime. It's a sci-fi series, sci-fi, SYFI, the channel.
Yeah.
Series. But Amazon Prime is streaming the first 3 seasons right now, I think. I also watched the Alex Garland film Annihilation with Natalie Portman. Really good, trippy. I really enjoyed that one, and it makes me want to read the book that Jeff Vandermeer wrote. I watched another Netflix film called Extinction, all very sci-fi. Everything I watched was sci-fi except for Afterlife and Bosch. Extinction with Michael Pena and Lizzie Kaplan. He plays a man who is having nightmares about an alien invasion, and then there's an alien invasion.
Ooh.
I watched the Disney film from 2012, John Carter from Mars. Well, it was called John Carter. And then I also watched the new Netflix sci-fi film Rim of the World. Did not like. It was, I did not. It was very thin.
So what was your standout, or is there more?
My standout?
Yeah.
Annihilation. My favorite of those was Annihilation. I also read a bunch of stuff too, but I won't go into all of that.
Wow, you really consumed some stuff, man. That's great.
I did. The one book I will talk about is The Huntress by Kate Quinn. I listened to that on Audible. The narrator is Saskia Marlveld. She was fantastic, really good. The book is about a trio of people, an American GI veteran. This is post-World War II. An English journalist who was a war correspondent, and a former Russian female bomber pilot hunting down a German Nazi war criminal who went by the name The Huntress, Die Jägerin. And that was a really good book. I enjoyed it. Das gut.
All right.
I'm
going to drink the rest of my coffee, and then we're going to dive into Act 2. Dan, as we launch into Act 2, I want to say I've never been more grateful that you got stuck with the Road of Trials, so have fun with that.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like the Road of Trials is pretty easy on this one.
I'm sure you did.
All right, so the Road of Trials, or tests allies and enemies. Having crossed the first threshold, the hero meets allies, makes enemies, and must pass a series of tests to prove their worthiness. Lloyd's allies are Corey, played by your favorite Lily Taylor.
She's so great.
DC, which does not stand for Diane Court.
Ooh.
Cameron Crowe, why did you do that?
That's trippy.
Why did you call...
That didn't even occur to me.
Played by Amy Brooks.
I don't really like details, so...
And Rebecca. He's got female friends.
Yeah.
Rebecca is played by Pamela Adlon, who also voices Peggy Hill on King of the Hill.
Oh.
Enemies are Jim Court.
Mm.
He's the big bad guy.
Yeah.
For Lloyd. For Diane, the IRS goons, and her father, who becomes a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
He is her champion until he's not.
Mahoney's performance in this movie, it has so much depth. He is manic.
Right.
So at her, he's driving her to a graduation, and she's, tells him her lame joke in the speech, and he is just, his performance is so great. And then in the end, when he's justifying himself and he says, "You be careful how bad you make me. I'm the only father you've got."
Yeah.
He's so righteous. I mean, just what a great performance by Mahoney.
In terms of tests, Valaire's party we already talked about, but that's a crossing of the first threshold, their first steps into this new relationship. Mm-hmm. There are tests for both of them in this scene as Lloyd tries to be the gentleman and not smother Diane. He lets her just kind of mill around this party on her own. He doesn't hang on her and try to, "No, you're here with me." He lets her be.
Yeah.
Which shows her that he can be respectful and let her be herself. Diane, this is her moment to integrate with the students that she held at arm's length for 3 years. Another test, particularly for Lloyd, is dinner at the court palace.
Oh, boy.
Horribly uncomfortable situation, but Lloyd gets through it as best he can.
Yeah.
He's dressed up sort of appropriately, except when he stands up and he looks like he's wearing those weird pants. I just have to point out the dictionary.
Oh, yes.
Diane's dictionary, where she tells him that she had a habit of marking every word that she looked up, and he flips through, and almost every word has an X next to it.
And he slams it shut.
He's completely overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, he's just like,
it's
I
like
can't
this
deal with
nightmare
that.
thing where he flips through slowly, and
Yeah.
then faster and faster and faster, and he slams it down, puts it down.
And he puts it away wrong with the spine facing the wall, too. That's the other. That's the Lloyd Dobler thing. I'll just put it away.
But this is where Lloyd is confronted by Jim Court and his attorney, who... He seems like they're in on it together. Like Jim Court probably or not his attorney, his accountant.
Yeah.
And said, let's grill this kid. Let's make this kid as uncomfortable as he can be.
Yeah.
But Lloyd has this amazing speech.
I don't want to sell anything, buy anything, or process anything as a career. I don't want to sell anything bought or processed, or buy anything sold or processed, or process anything sold, bought, or processed, or repair anything sold, bought, or processed. As a career, I don't want to do that.
From what I heard from the director commentary, which was hosted by Cameron Crowe, John Cusack, and Ione Skye, all three of them were in it.
Oh, I got to listen to that.
That speech was pretty much written by John Cusack. He had written kind of a backstory for Lloyd, or his worldview. And Cameron Crowe said this thing was like 7 or 8 pages long, this document that John Cusack had written about who Lloyd is. And so they included that in the script.
That's so awesome.
So I think it's neat when a director will allow, a writer-director will collaborate with the actors and let them be a part of the creation of those characters. The next test is Lloyd's opportunity to integrate into Diane's world when he visits her at her workplace, the Golden Seasons Old Folks Home, which is also owned by her father. I love the awkwardness of Lloyd when he's trying to introduce Cocoon.
Right.
I've never actually seen it, but I heard it's really good because it's about old people who go to space. So I think you guys will enjoy it.
And he's written on a chalkboard, Lloyd presents Cocoon. What are you doing, man?
I just loved that scene where he's and we've all been there. We've been in that weird, uncomfortable place where we are beginning to explore this person that we've chosen as our partner, and we're seeing parts of their existence that we didn't really know anything about.
Right. And if you remember, on a phone call prior to this, Lloyd makes some comment about not wanting to go there because he doesn't like to be around old people because they're dying and they remind him of death. This is another Lloyd refusing to grow up. And her saying, well, that's ageist.
Right.
And I've never seen someone backpedal so fast. But Lloyd, he really is that open-minded. He's like, oh, I guess you really turned me around here. And part of it is he just wants to make her happy.
To me, that seemed more like him realizing he offended her, and he's just backpedaling. He wasn't. I don't think he was. That was really
insincere.
Being turned around. It seemed very insincere.
But then he shows up and
he does
and rocks and rolls it.
Yeah, because he's trying to impress her and be a part of her world.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't exchange our deal or ordeal cards at the beginning of this segment, which we should have done.
Let's do it now.
Okay.
Are we reading them out?
Well, I'm kind of done with the Road of Trials now. So
okay. Fair enough.
So probably we should.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. Opening my card, Jeff says that my ordeal is going to be Diane dumps Lloyd.
You wrote exactly the same thing. Jeff's ordeal, Diane dumps Lloyd.
Wow.
I can't believe we wrote the exact phraseology.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
That's not what I chose as the ordeal, but we'll get there.
That is also not what I chose as the ordeal.
I love it!
Okay.
So
why don't you take over, and if you have any additional tests.
Yeah, I had one additional test.
One more? Okay.
Yeah, and it's the coffee date.
Oh, I saw that as the approach.
Oh, you saw that as approach?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I could see that as part of approach. They have a coffee date, and she's pushing back. I need to spend more time with my dad, and I only have a couple weeks left, and let's just be friends. And he says, friends with potential.
Friends with potential.
And she smiles and says, okay. She agrees to it. And so that's his, he's got his foot in the door.
Right. But there's also this, what I think is an important theory that she states is that, what does she call it? The theory of convergence.
I have this theory of convergence, that good things always happen with bad things. And I know you have to deal with them at the same, time, but I don't know why they have to happen at the same time. I don't know why. I just wish I could work out some sort of schedule. Am I just babbling? Do you know what I mean?
So I feel that's foreshadowing that things have been going well so far for them.
They're about to go bad.
And it's about to go bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That brings us to approach to the inmost cave, where our hero reaches the edge of a dangerous place where the object of his quest is hidden. I think the approach here consists of 3 scenes, or maybe 1 scene and a montage. Lloyd... What?
Sorry, every time I hear the word montage.
That's exactly... I almost did that.
That's that Puppets one. Team America.
World Police.
Team America, yeah. Montage!
I'm gonna need a montage.
And it also reminds me of when I was in college. I interned at a production company, and one of the things for which I was responsible was doing script coverage.
Oh, yeah.
Which, for listeners who might not be familiar with that, it's where you read scripts that have been submitted by writers or agents, and you read and analyze the script and try to determine whether or not this would be a viable option for the production company. And there was a script that I read that had several montages in it, but the screenwriter misspelled it Montague. every single time. At first I thought it was one misspelling, but every single time. And there were several Montagues in this script.
Oh my God.
And I chucked it. I said, nope, person doesn't even know how to spell montage. We're out. Do not buy this product.
Oh my God.
Which sets me up for anybody to call me out if I ever misspell anything.
So I think the approach here is 3 scenes and a Montague.
Yes.
Lloyd teaches Diane how to drive stick, and he's got his arm around her, and he's teaching her something that her dad had promised to teach her. And Dad is watching disapprovingly from the window.
Yes.
And they share their first kiss in the car. This is the beginning of the descent. And then there's this kissing montage. They're walking in the park with this great 80s guitar music in the background. They have a second kiss, and whereas their first kiss was sort of light and almost humorous, the passion is really heating up here. And then cut to them kissing in the rain.
In the rain.
I think every...
Escalation.
Yeah. I think every Cameron Crowe movie and every Taylor Swift song has kissing in the
Kissing
rain.
in the rain.
And the reason why it works is because it works. And you just... It's Seattle, they're raining and they're kissing in the rain, and it's beautiful.
Well, sure, but kissing in the rain, it's such a display of commitment to that singular moment. Because if you're outside and it starts raining, what do people do? They run for cover.
Yeah.
But no, these two people are so into each other that they do not care that they're being drenched. They're more interested in kissing each other.
That's a really great point. That's my approach to the Inmost Cave.
Mine too.
What? I am sick of being right all the time.
I am stunned.
I too am stunned.
I am completely stunned.
When I saw your photo of dipping back into Campbell, I had a little guess that you and I were going to be on track here.
Why?
Because,
I wasn't even turned to that chapter when in the photo.
That's true. You were at, I don't know, I'll have to check Instagram.
Why did you
dive into your ordeal and I'll insert my comment there, because right now it'll sort of...
Then let's move on to the ordeal, where the hero faces the ultimate test, often risking death to overcome his worst fear, sometimes actually appearing to die. The ordeal for Lloyd in this film is his first time with Diane in the backseat of his Chevy Malibu on the beach.
Absolutely.
This movie is about boy meets girl, boy gets girl. And when you are a teenager at this stage in their life, particularly for Lloyd, we don't know what Diane's relationship history is, but for Lloyd, it's made very clear that this is his first time. At that time in your life, having sex for the first time is forefront on their mind. So Lloyd Dobler states in the very first line of dialogue,
I'm going to take out Diane Court again.
This now is the culmination of that journey for him.
Yeah.
I feel like this has to be similar for just about everybody, but when you have sex for the first time, it is thrilling, it is terrifying, because you don't know what you're doing. Anybody who says that they knew what they were doing is full of it.
Yeah.
It's awkward and it's fumbling, and it's two people who have never been in that situation before discovering each other in completely new ways. You've never been that vulnerable ever.
Yeah.
You're terrified you're going to screw it up and not be a satisfying partner for the person you're with. That's why I feel like this is the ordeal for Lloyd.
And bless Cameron Crowe, unlike any romantic comedy I've seen, he doesn't have them kissing, start to it, fade to black. He starts the scene when they're done.
Yes.
And he deals with the aftermath.
Right.
And it's so much more intimate.
Yeah.
So much more intimate. Such a brilliant take.
And you see Lloyd like physically losing control. He's trembling. And Diane takes care of him. She covers him with the blanket. She tries to rub his chest to warm him up. And Lloyd you've never seen him like this before.
Yeah.
He's sweating and he's trembling and his lips are tight and he's freaked out.
She says, "Are you shaking?" And he goes, "No."
Yeah.
And she goes, "You're shaking.
He's
You're
trying to
cold."
play it tough.
I don't think I am. Then why are you shaking? I don't know. And then he says, "I'm happy."
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I think it's because I'm happy.
This is the sacred marriage of the meeting with the goddess.
Certainly.
You know, the hero struggling to balance two parts of himself, the shadow and the light, the masculine and the feminine,
Yep.
protection and vulnerability.
Right.
In the backseat of a Chevy Malibu. And by the way, it's so unrealistic that a song as good as In Your Eyes is playing. No one, you lose your virginity to like, Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba or someone told me they lost their virginity and the song that was playing on a loop was Gotta Keep Them Separated. That's what's playing on the radio when you're trying to do it. But they have this perfect moment where the perfect song is playing and it's just gives me chills.
Yeah. That to this day is one of my favorite songs ever. It's got to be one of the greatest songs ever, in my opinion.
I agree. But
just in general.
It's hard to take this scene out of your memory when you hear that song, though. That's
Certainly.
that feeling that you get.
Sure.
I have another part of the ordeal, unless you're done.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
Another element of Campbell's ordeal is atonement with the father. Diane comes home from spending the night with Lloyd, and her father confronts her. Like,
Yes.
Where have you been? Why didn't you call? And she tells him she's in love with Lloyd. And we see cracks in her father's veneer now. He is unmarried. There's no wife in his life. Diane is, for all intents and purposes, his feminine cohort in his life. And Lloyd has been slowly encroaching on this territory. This is the classic Freudian boyfriend replaces dad. And when Diane tells him she slept with Lloyd, first she tells him, I decided not to. And you see this relief on his face.
Yeah.
And then she says, but I attacked him anyway.
Right.
And you see him there's just a little part of him that snaps off and floats away. And Crowe cuts from that scene, not on Diane's smile, but on John Mahoney's bewildered disappointment. That's the last image of that scene. And whenever a director cuts away from a scene and it's not on the main character or the secondary character, that's because either that performance was so strong or because that's the key. It's not what she said, but it's his reaction. This is leading us into what's going to happen on the road back.
Nice.
Reward seizing the sword, the ultimate boon. Having faced his worst fear, the hero seizes the object of his quest. Lloyd is changed by this experience. In the guitar shop, Corey says,
Listen to me. Everything has changed. You've had sex. No matter what you might think, nothing will ever be the same between you two. You might be 60, you might be walking down the street, and you'll talk to her about something, whatever. But what you'll really be thinking is, we had sex.
So he's obtained this new maturity, and it's confirmed when Corey reads his letter out loud, and she and DC agree, this is perfect. You're a new Lloyd. So that's what I saw as Reward seizing the sword.
Corey says, get ready for greatness, Lloyd, which is a callback to Lloyd telling Miss Evans at the party, I'm looking for a dare to be great situation.
Yeah.
And he has now achieved that.
Yeah.
At least in Corey's eyes. That is the end of Act 2. I think it's time for a drink break.
Dan usually is saddled with the task of picking the beverage. I've only done it once, and I don't even remember what I chose, but it was really disappointing.
For you?
For both of us. It was a disappointing choice.
I don't think it was. I liked it. It was the Fuller's Extra Special Bitter
that's
you chose
right.
for The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
That's
which
right.
was totally appropriate.
It was thematically weak, is what I'm saying. Anyway, I had equal trouble trying to find something. So you Google Say Anything beer.
Yep.
Cusack beer. And then I came across the Dobler Brewing Company.
No.
And I was thrilled. I couldn't wait to get my hands on this until I found out they closed in 1960.
1960?
Yeah. So they were still distributed after 1970 by some other company, but the Dobler Brewing Company closed. But I was going to show you a picture. And
How excited did
I'll
you
post
get?
this picture.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that a beautiful can?
That doesn't even have a pop top. That was before pop tops, where you had to actually take a church key and punch a hole in the top of the can.
Established since 1865, Dobler private label beer.
Man.
Anyway,
Too bad we couldn't find any of that on eBay and get one in.
Yeah, Albany, New York. Albany. Anyway, but instead...
Yeah. I'm excited by this.
I acquired this.
So the ceremonial bag.
I don't think we've had this kind of beverage at all on this podcast, so it'll be a nice turn.
Okay. All right. So I get to do the whole audible thing where I crinkle the paper in the microphone. Okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. Oh, there's a bag in the bag.
What's in the bag?
Is this the thing where I keep opening bags, like
yes, it's just
progressively
bags.
smaller bags until really it's just
bags
a thimble,
all the way down. Yeah,
a thimble of oh, awesome! Isle of Skye blended Scotch whiskey, Ione Skye. Well done. Good find.
It's even spelled the right way.
Yeah, Skye. That's awesome. Why do you think we haven't had this beverage before?
Have we drunk Scotch on this podcast? I don't think.
Yeah.
Have?
Ready Player One.
That's right. Okay, so this is the second. But this is a blended Scotch.
Yeah,
this is not
Scotch,
a single malt.
Aged 8 years, rich in distinctive island and mellow Speyside malts, matured in oak casks for 8 long years. Let's get some glasses.
Yeah. While Dan pops open the bottle, I wanted to take this moment to say, right now, actually, he's going really fast. I am filming this for our Instagram story.
Well,
if you do not already follow us on Instagram, please do so at Heroes Journey Podcast, and you'll get to see cool stuff like behind-the-scenes liquor pouring.
I heard a toast that I really like, and I'm stealing this from the Whiskey Vault. It's a really good toast, though, so I want to share it.
Okay.
Here's to fighting, stealing, and drinking. If you fight, may you fight for a friend. If you steal, may you steal a lover's heart. And if you drink, may you drink with us.
I love it. It's not. It doesn't burn the nose.
No,
it's
not at all.
Caramely.
Really. Yeah, usually when I sniff whiskey for the very first time, I'll generally misjudge how close I can get my nose to the glass and inhale before it gets too sharp.
You smell it like a wine?
Yeah, usually like a wine or a beer, which you can just get right into.
Yeah.
But with a whiskey, you've got to kind of go in slow.
I also have a cold, so I'm wondering how that's going to affect my palate. All right, here we go. I'm taking a sip. That is peatier than I expected it to be. I expected it to be mellower than a single malt, but it's got character.
It is peaty. Now I will admit that this is a Scotch.
Yeah.
And I think for the layman, Scotch is known to be peaty. I think for people who say they don't like Scotch, it's because they don't like peaty Scotch.
Right.
They prefer the milder whiskeys like Irish or bourbons.
Yeah.
But one thing I've been learning is that not all Scotch is peaty.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple regions of Scotland that are producers of whiskey, and they all have different characteristics.
Well, you said this says Speyside.
Yes.
And what else? Does it say what else is in here?
Well, it says rich and distinctive island and mellow Speyside malts. Island.
I guess I expected it to be...
Not Isla. Oh, is that what they mean?
Do they mean Isla?
Because there's an island off the west coast of Scotland called Isla, and that's where Lafroig
is. That spelled Islay?
Islay.
Oh, you pronounce it Isla?
It's pronounced Isla. No.
Huh. Isla. Okay. I guess what I'm saying is it's got more bite and character than I expected. I expected it to be mellower since it's blended, which I don't know why I have that impression, but...
Yeah, unless it's just a blend of all peaty Scotches.
Maybe so.
then it's peaty.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it, though.
Yeah, me too.
It's nice.
I really am enjoying this. It's good. Maybe we need to have a sip of, like, the Balvenie or something so that we can appreciate that, because I wouldn't describe this as mellow or smooth. Would you?
Smooth, yeah. It's not an aggressive peat sensation, to me, anyway. Now, I will say, you've got water in yours. So if this is an oily Scotch, that could accentuate some of the flavors. So you may be having a more aggressive experience than I am. If you put a little bit of water in an oily whiskey, it behaves like motor oil on a driveway after the rain. You know, it will rise to the top, and that's why when you drink it after you put in a couple drops of water, those oils rise to the top, and that's what you are tasting. That's why it's a much more aggressive experience.
I also my cold may be affecting how I taste things, so
probably.
I mean, this is a Zyrtec D blend.
Wow.
All right, well, we're going to enjoy this, and we'll be back with Act 3.
Act 3 begins with The Road Back, where the hero is pursued by the vengeful forces he disturbed when he had sex in the backseat of his Malibu.
Indeed.
Jim Court plays the role of the vengeful force here when he encourages his daughter to break up with Lloyd.
To use another Cameron Crowe phrase, he thinks that Lloyd shoplifted the Putin.
And then furthering that sequence, Lloyd has a job now. So Diane calls Lloyd at his job and wants to talk to him. He agrees to go pick her up, and they're in his car, and he says, "I love you." And she says, "We need to break up."
Ouch.
And she gives him a pen that her father gave to her and said, "Give him this pen." What is that?
Yeah, man.
You jerk.
It's rough. I can't avoid the Freudian imagery here of the father making his daughter give the phallic object back. Like, I'm rejecting this.
Oh,
Take your
my
male
goodness.
animus back.
That is, I have never considered it in that way.
I'm not saying that it's not a giant stretch, but I did want to mention that.
That's kind of it for The Road Back. There is a sequence where Lloyd is feeling like he has too many female friends. He needs to get in touch with his masculine side, and I need more male friends. And so he meets up with like the magpies on the wire.
Oh, that's a great image.
Which Cameron Crowe says that. I can't take credit for that image. And so the camera pans down this line of these guys that are sitting on a curb behind a gas station convenience store, drinking beers on a Saturday night, and they're just giving him all this guy bull.
Lloyd, man, no babe is worth it, dude.
No.
Listen, hang with us, man. We'll teach you Bibles full of truth.
Right.
Lloyd, man, you can't even trust them, man. Because
right,
you know what it's
man.
about? They spend your money and they tell their friends everything, man. It's about economics.
That's valid,
They
man.
tell them everything.
That's
Man,
valid.
all you gotta do is find a girl that looks just like her,
Do that.
nail her, and then dump her, man.
Dump her,
Get
man.
her off your
Lloyd
mind.
knows we're right.
Your only mistake is that you didn't dump her first.
Word.
Diane Court is a show pony.
I
You need
heard
a
that
stallion,
much.
my friend. Walk with us and you walk tall.
Walk tall, my man.
And I just want to point out something that I was so excited about because I had forgotten about this when I watched this movie. Gregory Sporlater is in this film.
Yes!
Crazy Pants Captain Fry from
Of
The Rock
Yes.
is in this film. He's actually really good friend. He, Jeremy Piven, John Cusack, they're all really good friends, apparently. So I thought that was kind of neat. But I was like, that's Gregory Sporlater.
He's one of those actors who I can't imagine any other actor playing the roles that he plays because he's such a unique type.
Yeah. So you got anything to add to The Road Back?
A couple things I just wanted to mention. Dad and Diane are in the kitchen. I
Yeah.
still see this part of The Road Back. And
Yes.
Diane says, I love Lloyd. She says, I love him.
Right.
And you just see John Mahoney kind of like
Yeah.
tighten up. And he becomes the deceiver in this moment. And he starts saying, oh, that's so wrong. I just want you to have everything. And maybe I'm being selfish. And then he lays a giant guilt trip on her of,
Right.
well, I'm just so troubled with my IRS and we only have a few weeks left.
Right.
And you see Diane just like, oh my God, I'm a horrible person. I'm not taking care of my dad in his time of need. And that's the real vengeful force is he hits her what a cheap shot.
Right.
To play the guilt trip. And then the other
Good pull.
moment of vengeful force happens later. Diane's father goes to buy her luggage for her trip.
Right.
And he has this really great scene with the female salesperson, and he's kind of flirting with her, and then his credit card gets rejected.
Right.
And then his other credit card gets rejected.
Yep.
And we're to understand that the IRS has frozen his accounts. And there's this great scene where he's sitting in the bathtub, just crumpled up,
Right.
totally motionless. And then she knocks on the door, and he has to get out of the bathtub and straighten himself out.
Right.
But this is the vengeful force coming for James Court.
Yeah. I think this is a death symbolism. He's wearing a black suit when he's in the... And when he comes out, Diane is wearing a black dress. I think the two of them are on their way to a funeral for probably one of the nursing home patients.
Wow, I'm impressed with you on this episode, big time. There's some refusal of the return here when Lloyd pushes back on Diane's attempt to break up with him.
Right.
He's refusing to return to the normal world, to the ordinary world of being single and a child again.
I love the whole take this pen scene. The way John Cusack looks at that pen like it's this completely offensive, ridiculous object. And you know that when Diane puts it on the dashboard, the way Ione Skye plays that, where she kind of glances at it just briefly and then looks away, like she's mortified that this is happening.
Yeah, she can't believe she's doing this.
She can't believe that she's giving him a pen. I love that look on Ione Skye's face when she puts that pen on the dash.
We haven't had a baptism in a long time on this show.
Right.
And John Cusack actually says,
The rain on my car is a baptism. And the new me. Iceman. Power Lloyd. My assault on the world begins now.
and so another segment of the road back is the crossing of the return threshold. The hero's gone to the special world and accomplished something, and now he has to take that knowledge back into the real world. Lloyd calls her one more time and gets the answering machine and does his nervous talking thing, and she picks up, but she picks up too late.
Right.
And then in an iconic 1980s scene, he stands outside her window and holds up a boombox and blasts Peter Gabriel's In Your Eyes, the song that was playing when they made love.
I get so lost sometimes.
Hard to say if that's the motivation, but Diane goes to the IRS and has this great scene with Philip Baker Hall, who says, you should take that fellowship because he's guilty, and go see if he fits the profile. And so she goes home and she searches through his stuff and she finds the cash.
Not only that, there are a lot of clues.
Right.
That he gives her the profile. Are there a lot of rugs? Is there artwork in the house? Are the major items in your house around the $9,000 range, which is exactly what Jim Court and
paid
his
for the jukebox.
Accountants say they paid for the Wurlitzer. When Diane gets home from the IRS, Dad's not home, and she stoops down to pick a magazine up off the floor and put it back on the coffee table, and the camera pans down a little bit, and you see the rug that's under the coffee table.
Yeah.
And then in every shot, for the rest of that scene, every wall surface has a painting or a photograph on it. There's artwork everywhere in this house. All of these are clues.
Yeah, it's great when the evidence is everywhere and confronts you and you should have seen it. And then
Right.
Ione Skye has a I have to be Morgan Freeman moment where she looks up and she's on searching through his desk and she says, they made me doubt you.
Yep.
And then she looks up and sees the box where he's taking all of the gifts out, and she opens it up and there's just piles of cash. Diane becomes the vengeful force now, and she confronts her father.
You stole from them. You lied to me. How do you think that's supposed to make me feel?
You think you know what this money is?
Yes, I...
No, you don't know what it is. It's not for me. This money's for you, for when you come back from England with honors to set you up so you never have to depend on anybody again. I take better care of those people than their families do. I care for them. I give them flowers. I feed them. I wipe their mouths.
No, but you stole from them.
I make their lives better.
He feels so right
And then
in this.
in one of the best lines in the movie, he says,
Take it easy how bad you make me. I'm the only dad you've got.
a good actor elevates the material, and John Mahoney brings it home in this scene. He is a complex, flawed man.
Yeah. One thing I want to add is when Lloyd is at Corey's house with DC, and they're having this conversation where you talked about it earlier, where Corey says, the world's full of guys. Don't be a guy, be a man. If you look at every wall surface in Corey's room, the first time I saw this movie, I thought they were just posters, but they're all pictures of Joe.
Yep.
This guy that she wrote 65 songs about and has been carrying a torch for.
Yeah.
There are these big poster-sized photos of her and Joe, or sometimes just Joe. But
Yeah.
it's a display of how hard it is to let go of somebody if that relationship ends.
She's kind of a cautionary tale for Lloyd.
Yeah.
Don't get hung up. So that brings us to resurrection. The hero is purified by death in a symbolic or literal way and returns to the land of the living a changed person. Diane finally realizes she's made a giant mistake. She's chosen the wrong man. she shows up at the kickboxing studio and distracts Lloyd at a key moment, and he gets whomped in the face. So now, in addition to being heartbroken, he's bleeding.
He's got a broken nose.
His black eye.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Lloyd says at the dinner party, when he's justifying why he likes kickboxing, he says, "I've never been knocked down yet."
Good detail.
And this is the first time he looks up and his sparring partner, who's actually played by Don the Dragon Wilson, an actual kickboxing star.
So he gets knocked down, but he gets up again. They're never going to keep him down. So she says, "I need you," and he's reluctant at first, but he gives in pretty quickly.
Yeah. His do you need me or do you just need somebody?
Yeah, and then he's like,
"There's no answer." Hey, never mind. I don't even care.
I don't care. Yeah, he never really gave up. There's that drive where he's talking to Corey in his tape recorder, and he goes to see the guys at the gas and sip, but he never really let go. He kept calling and he kept calling.
You hear him say when he's talking into that tape recorder, which is an audio letter to Corey, "You know what? I don't even remember when I knew her." And then immediately says, "Oh, here's the mall where we met, and here's the street where she broke up to me." Just
taking a tour through their relationship.
I don't remember when I knew her. By the way, here's all these other places where I knew her.
I see as a part of Resurrection. So James Court has been incarcerated now for embezzlement. And because Diane is too angry at her father, Lloyd goes to visit him in prison.
Yeah.
He tells him he's going to England with Diane, and it's a great scene. James is a total monster to him. But Lloyd is magnanimous and amazing, and he gives James the letter that she's written to him, and he's nervous for James as he's reading the letter because he doesn't know which version. She's written two versions, one that's conciliatory and one that's "I don't forgive you." And he gets to the end of the letter, and it's the harsher of the two. And Lloyd says, but doesn't... knowing that other version exists, that's got to be... He's comforting this man who has been nothing but cruel and rejecting of him. And then Diane shows up.
There's a moment, though, after Lloyd says, it's got to mean something. Just knowing that a version like that exists. Jim Court looks at Lloyd, and there's a little smile.
Yeah.
There's a moment of appreciation that Lloyd is there saying what he is saying, trying to comfort him in this really horrible time that he's going through.
Yeah.
I really honed in on that for some reason. I noticed it this time, and I've never seen that before. I've seen this movie dozens and dozens of times. Like I said, it was one of the movies I just play when I'm cleaning the apartment or something. It was...
There's another moment in that scene where I think we see James recognize Lloyd as an adult, and because Lloyd says, "Hey man, are you okay? Like, are you?" And he turns around and goes, "I've incarcerated Lloyd."
Right. And
the way he says Lloyd, it's like he's talking to another man. He's not talking down to this kid anymore.
Oh no, he's absolutely talking down to him.
Oh, I disagree.
He says he attacks Lloyd. He says, "I can't understand why Diane has chosen to champion mediocrity the way she's learned to around you."
Yes, but he's confronting Lloyd and telling him the truth, which is a totally different level of respect. It's one thing to think someone's less of you and to not even give them the time of day and to sort of shunt them aside. It's another thing to look them in the eye and say, "Here's what I think of you, and I don't understand why she's chosen you." It's disrespectful, but it's certainly a different level of respect than just not even giving someone the time of day.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is I agree with you that...
You're really turning me around on this.
You're such a clever man. So then Diane shows up and tells her father she loves her, and their relationship is on some level resurrected.
Yeah, they do finally hug. They get that hug that he tried to give her in the kitchen, and she pulled away.
There's a future for their relationship. She doesn't leave it like the letter left it.
Right.
And then she gives him the pen. Sick burn! She burns him. That was
an amazing moment.
Yeah. Here, take this pen. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Lloyd won. You're in jail. Bye-bye.
All right. So I guess that brings us to the final segment, which is Freedom to Live, or Return with the Elixir. This is where the hero, having won some precious treasure or reward, now returns to the ordinary world to share the spoils of battle. The final scene of the film, Lloyd and Diane are on an airplane, unfortunately in the middle seat, in the middle of their plane.
Yep, because they didn't plan well, apparently. Apparently, Dad bought her tickets in the middle of a 747.
There probably isn't money for tickets now, so they probably had to buy the tickets themselves.
Yeah,
is my guess.
They're probably flying Southwest to England.
I doubt the fellowship includes airfare, right? So Diane is visibly terrified of being on this airplane, and Lloyd is the caretaker explaining to Diane all of the sounds that she's hearing. And yeah, this is very normal for an airplane, and trying to comfort her. And we're seeing the Lloyd that will be with Diane in England. This is the guy he's going to be. It's what he has stated was his goal from the very beginning. And even when he says to Jim Court, I want to be with your daughter, I'm good at it. That's what I want to do.
But there's one thing he doesn't protect her from, which is the ridiculous hat that she's wearing. It's like it's got a giant brim. Like, did she injure her skull and there was a bandage and they had to hide it or something?
It was 1989. That hat was in...
You're on a plane where your head is against a seat, and she's got this big... It's just the most... I don't understand why they chose that hat. It's a terrible hat.
And what I think is one of the finest closing moments of a film that I've seen.
Absolutely agree.
Diane says, nobody thought we would do this. Nobody thinks it's going to work. And Lloyd looks at her and shakes his head and he says,
You just described every great success story.
And then he explains to her that when that smoking light dings, that's, you know we're safe. And so they sit there and they watch it. And it's this really kind of this tense moment.
Yeah.
Like, we know Cameron Crowe is not going to suddenly make the plane crash.
I remember when I first watched it, I was going, wait, why is this scene happening? Like, what's going on? I don't understand. What's
Right.
this? Is there a twist ending?
Right, yeah. And they're waiting, and they're waiting. And then, boom, cut to black. And that's the end of the film. And I think everything is okay.
Yeah.
It's such a wonderful end to that film.
Agreed.
I love that ending.
That's it for this episode. Join us next month when we cover... We're not sure yet. Check us out on social media and on our website at heroesjourneypodcast.com. And if you're a patron, head to patreon.com/heroesjourney to place your vote.
And if you like what you heard, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Tell 5 friends about us and give us a 5-star review on iTunes.
If you find yourself looking forward to the next episode, if that's a sensation that you have, consider becoming a patron. You can get access to dozens of bonus audio and video content, including trivia about the films and books we cover, behind-the-scenes featurettes, and featurettes, and outtakes of me stuttering and swearing. So go to patreon.com/heroesjourney to see all the stuff you can get. And we have an Instagram now, Dan.
What?
We are at Heroes Journey Podcast on Instagram. And
this is an audio program. What's the point of having a photo profile?
This very day, I have posted several videos in our Instagram story that are behind the scenes stuff that you can only get access to if you follow us on Instagram. So open up your phone right now and go to Instagram and search Heroes Journey Podcast.
And follow.
You weren't following us already?
The Hero's Journey is produced by Jeff Garvin and Dan Zarzano.
That's you.
Original music by Taylor Jordan. Thanks to demigod patron Dean Ethington for designing our logo. This episode, we sampled Isle of Skye blended Scotch whiskey from MacLeod & Company Limited in Edinburgh.
MacLeod. Say Anything is copyright 1989, either Gracie Films or 20th Century Fox?
20th Century Fox.
Okay, because I went on IMDb Bro and it did not specify.
It absolutely did.
It did not.
It totally did.
The word
That's
copyright
how I know.
only existed one place on that page, and it was in the footer to say the IMDb information was copyright.
It says copyright holder 20th Century Fox Film Corporation.
That's a lie.
I will show it to you. Stop what you're doing, whip out your phone, and follow us on Twitter @Heroes Podcast. Like us at Facebook at facebook.com/Heroes Journey Podcast, and check out our show notes, including links to what we are reading, watching, and playing and drinking at heroesjourneypodcast.com.
Plug the Instagram.
You just plugged the Instagram.
Until next time.
Take this pen.